All right, today we're diving into something truly amazing, one of biology's absolute masterpieces, the human eye. You know, it's so much more than just a lens. Think of it as a living, self-building camera that literally connects us to the world around us. So, let's get into how it's actually built.
And this really is the central question, isn't it? How does that even happen? The journey from just a small handful of cells to this complex, fully functioning window to the universe. I mean, it's one of the most incredible stories in all of biology. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to break down how it's built, how it works, and, fascinatingly, how we can even step in and fix it.
Okay, so first things first, let's talk about construction. The eye starts with this microscopic blueprint. It's an unbelievably precise set of instructions that just unfolds with incredible speed right in the earliest moments of life.
And the speed of this whole process is just stunning. The eye's journey really kicks off around day 22 of gestation. And get this, just 5 days later, the very first structures for the lens start to form. The tissue actually begins to fold in on itself. It's like a tiny piece of microscopic origami, creating the eye's entire foundation. It's an incredibly fast and honestly super elegant process.
So you might be wondering, where do all these complex parts even come from? Well, believe it or not, almost everything in the eye, we're talking the lens, the retina, even the muscles, it can all be traced back to just 3 simple embryonic layers. It is a fantastic example of pure biological efficiency. Let's break that down a bit. First, you've got the surface ectoderm. That's what forms the lens and the skin of your eyelids. Simple enough. But then there's the neural ectoderm, and this is just wild. It's part of the exact same tissue that forms your brain. This layer creates the most critical light-sensing parts, the retina and the optic nerve. Then you have neural crest cells, which build the tough outer wall, the sclera, the white of your eye, and the clear cornea. And finally, the mesoderm steps in to form all the muscles in the blood supply. So you've got 4 completely distinct sources, all coming together to build one perfectly integrated organ. Amazing. All right, so now let's get to the functional heart of the eye. If we're sticking with the camera analogy, then the retina is, without a doubt, its digital sensor. This is that incredibly important neurosensory layer at the very back of the eye that captures light and kicks off the whole process of sight. Now, on this sensor, there are 2 spots that are absolutely critical to how you see. We're talking about the optic disc and the macula. And even though they're right next to each other, their jobs couldn't be more different. One is basically an exit ramp for information, and the other, well, that's the absolute center stage for our vision.
So here's the crucial difference, the thing you really need to get. The optic disc, that's our natural blind spot. Yep, you have one. It's the point where all the nerve fibers bundled together to leave the eye. So there's literally no room for light-sensing cells. No rods, no cones, nothing. The macula, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. It is packed with the highest concentration of cone cells you can imagine, and that's what makes it responsible for our sharpest, most detailed, high-definition central vision.
Okay, so we have all this information being collected by the retina. How does it actually get to the brain? Well, it travels through what you can think of as a high-speed biological data cable, the optic nerve.
To put it simply, the optic nerve is just a massive bundle of biological wires. Each one of those wires is an axon from a nerve cell, and when you put them all together, they transmit everything you see from the retina straight to the brain for processing. And this nerve's journey is about 50 millimeters long. It starts right there inside the eyeball, then it passes through the eye socket, enters a bony canal for protection, and finally, it reaches the brain. It's this super protected, totally dedicated pathway just for visual information. But this whole development process is just incredibly complex. So, what happens when that microscopic blueprint has a mistake? What happens when that delicate formation process doesn't go quite right? Well, that can lead to a condition called a coloboma. Hey, remember that origami-like folding we were talking about earlier? A coloboma happens when one of those developmental seams, it's called the choroidal fissure, fails to close up completely during the process. The result is a gap, literally a missing piece of tissue in the eye's structure.
And this is what that can look like, an eyelid coloboma, where a piece of the eyelid is just missing. It's a really powerful visual reminder that every single step in that complex developmental dance is absolutely essential. There's no room for error.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit, from development over to medicine, because the eye's unique, self-contained anatomy doesn't just make it a biological marvel, it also makes it remarkably accessible for doctors to treat directly.
One of the key landmarks that doctors look for is something called the ora serrata. It's basically the serrated front edge of the retina, and its location is an absolutely crucial guide for surgeons when they're performing procedures inside the eye, especially if they need to inject medication.
And the level of precision we're talking about here is just incredible. Look at this. It shows the exact site for an injection into the eye's vitreous humor. That's the gel-like stuff inside. The injection site, which they measure from the limbus, or the edge of the cornea, changes by the millimeter depending on whether the patient has their natural lens, an artificial one, or even no lens at all. That's how precise this has to be. The procedure itself is really a model of careful precision. First, the eye is gently held open and the surface is completely sterilized. Then the patient is asked to look away just to expose the target area. A special caliper is used to mark the exact spot. This makes sure the injection is both safe and effective. It's a perfect direct delivery system for medicine, getting it right where it's needed most.
So when you think about it all, from its incredible formation to its intricate function, and even our ability to treat it with such mind-blowing precision, it's pretty easy to see why the eye has been called the jewel of the body. It's this amazing paradox. It's both fragile and resilient, so simple in its building blocks, yet infinitely complex in the end result.
And that really just leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? I mean, we build these incredible optical instruments, these massive telescopes to peer into the vastness of space. But maybe, just maybe, the ultimate marvel isn't looking out, but looking in and trying to fully grasp the biological genius that builds the living, self-healing, perfectly focused lens we all use every single day.